Salve to Discipuli, this is Magistra Buddy, and this is the Stage 3 lesson, More About Accusatives. So, quick review. The nominative is the subject or subject complement if it's going with a linking verb. For example, the kid sits is a subject use of the nominative. The kid is smart has an example of both. The kid is the subject here. In Latin, that would be nominative. Is a linking verb. Smart would also be nominative in Latin. And here it's a subject complement. Is a linking verb. Think of it as an equal sign. The nouns on each side are the same. So kid would be nominative, smart would be nominative. Accusatives. We were told in the last session that accusatives are the direct object. For example, the kid throws the ball. The ball is a direct object because it's directly receiving action of the verb, which is throws. However, accusatives can also be the object of a preposition. He throws the ball into the net. Here, net in Latin would be accusative. Into would be your preposition. So into the net is a prep phrase. That's why I have it in parentheses. Ablative still has just one use. It's the object of a preposition. So the kid sits in the kitchen. In is a preposition. Kitchen is the object of that preposition. So in the kitchen is a prep phrase. I have that bracketed, set apart by parentheses. Okay, let's review our endings real quick. We've got a, for the first declension. Us, o for the second declension. Odd, now remember the reason why this says odd is because there is no pattern that the third declension nominative follows. There's a bunch of different things that can fit in this box, so we call it our odd box. So odd, for the third declension. What do these words look like in action? We've got wila, wilam, wila, amicus, amicum, amico, leo, leonem, leone. So this is how each of these words would look according to its ending, according to its function. So if the lion were the subject of the sentence, it would be leo. If it were the direct object, it would be leonem. If it were in a prep phrase, it would be leone. And now we know that it could also be leonem if it's part of a prep phrase. I know it sounds really confusing, but trust me, you'll get used to it. All right, quick word about prepositions. Okay, think of prepositions as a word that explains the position of something or someone. And it's really nice to be able to see that the word position is in the word preposition. Here are some examples in English. Under the bed, around the house, over the field, in the study. In all of these examples, there's a preposition, under, around, over, in, going with its object, bed, house, field, study. So these would all be put into parentheses in the Latin. They're giving extra information in the sentence. These are not a part of the main clause. These cannot stand alone as sentences. There's no subject, there's no verb. All right. So we have two prepositions now. In, which can be translated as in or on, is always followed by the ablative. Odd, which means to or toward, is always followed by the accusative. It's not so important that you remember that this takes the ablative and that this takes the accusative, as much as it is important for you to recognize that you're looking at a preposition when you see either of these two words in the sentence, and that you know you should be looking for an ablative or accusative going with it. So the dog is in the street. That would be an ablative in English, and this is a prep phrase. The dog runs to the street. That would be accusative, and this would be in parentheses in the Latin. Quick note about words. Look how long our list is for verbs. For our action verbs, I should say. They still all end in T, which is nice and easy. Our one linking verb is est. However, we have this word right here now. It's et. It means and. It also ends in a T, but it is not a verb. So if you see a word that ends in T, pause for a moment and ask yourself if you're actually looking at et. That means and. If it's a different word, if it's not et and it ends in a T, then you're looking at a verb. Okay, another word about et. So et is a connector. It will always connect two of the same things. For example, it could be connecting two verbs. The dog runs and jumps. It could be connecting two direct objects. He holds water and food. These are two different things that he's holding. It also could connect two phrases. So Keller greets Quintus and enters the house. We've got verb direct object, verb direct object. Two different things that he's doing and two different things that he's doing those things too. All right. For these following 6 sentences, I want you to copy them down. If you have an ablative or an accusative that's going with a preposition, put it in parentheses. Mark that as your prep phrase. If you have an action verb, mark it as a V. A linking verb, mark it as an LV. If it's nominative, mark it as your subject. But remember, if it's a linking verb, there might be a subject complement on the other side. If you have an accusative, meaning if it ends in an M, mark it as your direct object. Of course, unless you've already put it in a prep phrase, put it in parentheses. In that case, leave it alone. It's already been designated as a prep phrase. All right, so go ahead and pause the video, copy down these 6 sentences, mark them, and write out a translation. All right, let's check our work. Okay, I had an accusative here. It's right next to odd, so I'm going to put that in parentheses and then leave it alone. I'm done with it. I also have an et here, and it's connecting two words that end in T, so two verbs. What I have left here is in the odd box, so it's nominative, it's mercator. So the merchant walks and sits. Oh, sorry. The merchant walks to the house and sits. Sometimes you can do it the way that I was starting to. The merchant walks and sits, and then do your whatever you have left in the sentence to do. But I realized that that just wasn't going to work. So I changed gears. All right, coquus inculino laborat. Inculina is a prep phrase, so I have parentheses around that. Coquus is nominative, it's our subject. Laborat ends in a T, it's our verb. The cook works in the kitchen. Servus ad hortum venit. Ad hortum is a prep phrase. This is accusative. So what do I have left? Outside of the parentheses, I've got servus, my subject, because it's nominative. When it ends in a T, then it's not et, so it's a verb. The slave comes to the garden. All right, here's a long one. Sifax, servum, et dominum, ad velam ducit. All right, so velam is accusative. It's going with odd, so I'm going to bracket that. I'm also going to recognize that I've got a connector here. Recognize that it's connecting two direct objects. And then recognize that sifax goes in the odd box. That's nominative, so it's our subject. Ducit, it ends in a T, and it's not et, so that's our verb. So sifax leads the slave and the master to the house. All right, claimans cibum ad caecilium portat. So caecilium is accusative, and it's right next to odd, so that's a prep phrase. Put it in parentheses and set it aside. And what do we have left? We've got clemens. This is in our odd box, so it's nominative, it's a subject. Cibum, this is accusative, and there's no prepositions left, so it's our direct object. Portat ends in a T, and it's not et, so it's a verb. Clemens carries food to Caecilius. Remember, in English, we want to go subject, verb, direct object. And then you put your extra stuff, anything that's left, where it makes most sense. Ancula pictorum ad atrium ducit. Okay, atrium is accusative. It's right next to a preposition, so let's put that in parentheses to indicate that it's a prep phrase. And what we have left here is a nominative, so that's our subject. We've got an accusative without a preposition, so that's our direct object. And a verb that a word that ends in T, and it's not et, so that's a verb. The slave girl leads the painter to the atrium. All right, so remember, English relies on word order to indicate function. Latin relies on endings to indicate function. So make sure you know your charts. Make sure you know the purposes of each of those case endings so that you can decode the Latin as it comes to you. Vale te discipuli.